Hello, it's Kate here. It's my privilege to be your guide for the adventure that lies ahead of you. There's so much to see, so keep your eyes open and your ears alert. Are you ready? Let's get going. Welcome to Longleat's African Reserve, our very own savannah in the heart of Wiltshire. By now you'll have no doubt spotted our beautiful Rothschild giraffes, so named by Lord Walter Rothschild, a passionate zoologist in the early 1900s. So what can I tell you about them? Well, if you look closely at their wonderful markings, you'll notice that it stops at their knees, giving us the impression that they're sporting rather lovely cream stockings. Can you spot their incredibly long tongues? It can be hard not to. Measuring in at about 50 centimetres, our giraffes use their tongues to wrap around leaves and draw them into their mouths, in the same way we might use our fingers to reach a tasty snack. Just look at the unique way in which they stroll. Swaying from side to side, giraffes move both right legs at the same time and then their left legs. This gives them a longer stride. If they're in a hurry, however, they'll adopt a similar style to most mammals and swing their rear legs and front legs in unison. Now, as I'm sure you can imagine, animals of this size require a considerable amount of filling up. In fact, giraffes can spend an incredible 16 to 20 hours a day munching through twigs and foliage. You might think this continual effort to graze would tire them out, but surprisingly, giraffes can get by on very little sleep. Giraffes in the wild must always be on their guard in case of any predator attack. So they choose to nap for only minutes at a time, often while standing up. They've learnt to get by on as little as 30 minutes sleep per day. Luckily for our giraffes here at Longleat, they can enjoy longer and more relaxing snoozes. That sound coming through your speakers is the unmistakable call of the next animal I want you to spot on your safari, the zebra. Have you seen them yet? The first thing that you'll notice about our herd of Grant zebras are their dazzling black and white stripes. If you look very closely, you will see that each zebra has its own and unique stripe pattern, in the same way that we have our very own individual fingerprints. So can any of you answer the age-old question about a zebra? Is a zebra black with white stripes or white with black stripes? Well, let me help you out. Zebras are actually black with white stripes. Under all that hair, their skin colour is black. Full marks to all of you who got that right. Zebras are very fast runners and can get up to speeds of 40 miles an hour, just fast enough to outpace a hungry lion. They chomp on grasses, shrubs, leaves and twigs and spend so much time chewing that their teeth continue to grow throughout their lives. This counteracts the continual wearing down. Now, if you listen carefully, you might just hear the zebras making some unusual noises. Zebras are actually great communicators and use barking, braying, snorting and huffing sounds to get their points across. They also use facial expressions like wide-open eyes or bared teeth grimaces to greet each other and prevent aggression. Even their ears can tell you a lot about how they're feeling, and an angry zebra with flattened ears equals trouble. If you cast your gaze around the pastures, you should be able to see our herd of wildebeest. Despite their bull-like appearance, wildebeest, or gnus as they're also known, are actually members of the antelope family, closely related to oryxes and gazelles. The wildebeest we have here at Longleat are provided with all the food and water they need. But in Africa, where they come from, wildebeest follow the rain on an annual 1,800-mile migration, seeking out water to drink and rain-ripened grasses to eat. No trip to the savannah would be complete without our next animal. It's time for you to meet our ostriches. Can you see their huge brown eyes? Yes? Well, it may interest you to know that those eyes are in fact larger than their brains, ensuring they can spot any predators that might be approaching from a distance. Incredibly, these flightless giants have not one, not two, but 3 stomachs. And given that they don't have any teeth, they rely on swallowing pebbles to grind up the food they've eaten. Unsurprisingly, ostriches lay the largest eggs in the world, measuring in at about 15 centimetres in length and weighing the same as 24 chicken eggs. It won't take you very long to spot our next iconic animal. Resplendent in pink, say hello to our flock of Chilean flamingos. In the wild, those brilliantly coloured feathers come from eating algae and crustaceans, like shrimp, which contain pigments called carotenoids. Here, we feed them a specially formulated diet that contains everything they need to produce that perfect pink plumage. These birds often choose to spend most of their time on one leg, either resting, preening, even sleeping. Scientists have recently discovered that flamingos actually use less energy standing on one leg as opposed to 2. Fascinating. Also in this enclosure, you can see some white birds with dark heads and rumps, along with spectacular curved bills. These are sacred ibis, fabulous birds held in high esteem by the ancient Egyptians. Also, keep a lookout for our spoonbills. With a beak shaped like a spoon, it's easy to see how they got their well-suited name. Now we come to our second aviary, inhabited by our rather incredible African white-backed vultures. Just look at those huge wings. Their impressive wingspan of over 2 meters enables them to glide effortlessly through the African skies whilst using their amazingly precise eyesight to spot a carcass from several miles away. Sometimes referred to as nature's rubbish collectors, vultures prevent the spread of diseases like anthrax, cholera, and rabies when they consume a rotten carcass, something they can do within minutes. Right, the next enclosure is a very exciting one, and it's lots of people's favourite when they come here to Longleat. You've just entered our monkey drive-through, home to our inquisitive rhesus macaques. These really are delightful-looking animals. Have a look at that adorable pink face. Remind you of anyone? Well, there is something vaguely human about their looks, and that's because, like us, these are primates. They're some of the most common monkeys found throughout Asia, including India and high up in the Himalayas. There are several families living here, and at the head of each family is an old female. They keep control by using their status and experience to settle any disputes. It really is a quite well-ordered society, even if it may look a little chaotic. So we've now driven into the big game park, and there are some really impressive creatures around here. But it's a real mixed bag, and not all from one continent. First up, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the largest animal here at Longleat, our Asian elephant, Anne. This beautiful elephant arrived here in 2011, seeking sanctuary after spending almost 50 years performing in a circus. At Longleat, Anne receives the best possible medical care and attention, and I'm pleased to say her health has significantly improved since joining us. Elephants are supremely intelligent animals, and their surroundings are critical to their health and well-being. Anne shares her home with a group of goats who provide her with some company and interaction without posing any threat or conflict. Our dedicated keepers also work extremely hard to keep Anne entertained, so if she's out of sight right now, it's more than likely that she's chosen to be inside her house playing one of her behavioural enrichment games. Now, have a good look around the pastures before you and see if you can spot the reddish-brown cows. They're the ones with the magnificent horns measuring a staggering 2 metres long. That's taller than me. Well, these cows are called Ankoli cattle. They live in Africa and hold the record for the world's biggest horn circumference of any bull. Woe betide any predator that gets in the way of those powerful horns. Now for an animal that is super equipped to deal with life in the desert, our Bactrian camels. Check out those 2 large humps on their backs. This is certainly their most recognizable feature. They are in fact an invaluable store of fat that can be broken down and turned into water in times of drought. An ingenious design for a desert creature, don't you think? Bactrian camels are also well prepared for colder climates with their thick, shaggy coats and broad, flat feet, or as I like to call them, snowshoes. Best not to get too close though. Camels are notoriously grumpy, and a grumpy camel is likely to spit. Back to Africa and keep your eyes open for another really dramatic animal found here. The scimitar horned oryx. If you're not sure which ones they are, they're the ones sporting a striking pair of backwards curving horns, which can measure a whopping 1.5 meters long. Incredibly, their horns are longer than they are tall. Could these graceful and elegant antelope be behind the legend of the majestic unicorn, I wonder? Supremely adapted to life in the North African deserts, these animals can survive for months without water by getting all the moisture they need from the plants that they eat. And that light-coloured coat helps to reflect the sun's rays and stop them from overheating. Breeding these beautiful animals in captivity is essential, as sadly they have now become extinct in the wild. Right, there's just one more animal left to find, and hopefully we've made it easy for you, because you're on the lookout for one of the largest species of antelope, the roan antelope. Sporting a reddish-brown coat, you'll find the roans easy to spot with their distinctive black and white facial masks and their powerful ringed horns. Can you see them? These horns are put to good use when rival males battle to become leader of the herd, and in the wild, these almighty horns have even been known to overpower lions. So, did you manage to see all the animals? I think you'll agree they're a pretty impressive bunch. A southern white rhino. These huge, heavily armoured beasts have stout bones to support their enormous bodies and can weigh as much as a car. Heavy they might be, but they can run much faster than us. However, they have very poor eyesight, and if they think something threatening is coming towards them, they could easily charge. Quite fittingly, a group of rhinos is known as a crash. But don't worry, our rhinos here at Longleat are more than used to the daily traffic and won't be crashing into your car. For a generally passive, rather sluggish animal, they're also one of the most exciting creatures you could ever encounter, and we're really fortunate to have them here at Longleat. Sadly, poaching for their impressive horns has made spotting any white rhino in the wild a rare treat. Longleat's female southern white rhinos are involved in a captive breeding program to help ensure the future of the species. Welcome to the Pelican Lagoon, home to our magnificent pink-backed pelicans. Pelicans are amongst the largest flying birds in the world and can carry surprising amounts of fish in the enormous pouch which is part of their beak. Breeding in captivity has always been a challenge, and as pinkbacks normally nest in trees, our keepers have come up with this unusual design of nests on stilts that you see here. This has definitely done the trick for our pelicans, and Longleat is proud to champion the first breeding colony of pelicans in Britain. We're now in a position to share our findings with other parks and zoos, and this has led to the development of a huge dating service for pelicans, ensuring that the best pelican matches are made for successful breeding. It's a huge collaborative effort, and Longleat is at the forefront of coordinating this vital work as part of a European breeding programme. We're now coming into the very large enclosure which houses our Siberian or Amur tigers. These are the largest subspecies of tiger. A fully grown male could be 4 or even 5 times my body weight. And with all that weight comes an immense amount of power and strength. These tigers are big, strong and powerful, with really heavy bones, which means they can't engage in a very long, drawn-out chase. Instead, what they do is creep up and get close to their chosen prey before they pounce. And when they do, they'll deliver such an enormous force, both through their bite and through those huge paws, that everything's going to be all over and done with very quickly. I really hope you can see them walking right now. There's something about the walk of a tiger that just says, I'm in charge. There is sheer elegance and majesty in every single stride. It's an animal that doesn't fear anything. There is almost nothing in the natural world that is quite as regal as the tiger. Regal, but deadly. Tigers are usually solitary animals. They live almost their entire lives on their own. Males and females will come together for a short time when they're breeding, and after the female has given birth to her cubs, she'll stay with them until they're able to take care of themselves. At Longleat, you have the chance to see a number of tigers living together, something that you would rarely see in the wild. We're now in Lion Country. This is where the Longleat story truly began, with the extraordinary vision of Henry Thynne, the 6th Marquess of Bath. As was common in the post-war era, stately homes began to open their doors to the public to help overcome the financial upkeep of such large estates. Longleat was the first to do this. But it wasn't until the Marquess met the enterprising Jimmy Chipperfield that the true potential of the estate was realised. Together, they hatched a plan that would see the release of 50 African lions into a large 100-acre reserve. Before they knew it, applications were granted, and in early February 1966, the first lion, a small cub aptly named Marquis, arrived at Longleat. Many more followed, including 7 from the company that made the Oscar-winning film Born Free. The rest, over 50 years later, is history. And I really hope you're getting to see the results of that eccentric but inspirational idea right now. So here, running free in this enclosure is a pretty substantial pride of lions. A pride is a word that you use to talk about a group of lions. And they are very unusual amongst the larger cats in that they do stick together in groups made up of both males and females. However, when it comes to hunting, it's the lionesses that do all the work. Recognise that, girls? When prey is spotted, the females change in an instant, from just lying around, probably in the shade, doing very little, to the second they think they've got an opportunity for a hunt. Everything about their body language completely changes. The body drops close down to the ground, the nose is held high, the ears are erect. You can see that all of their senses have suddenly become very highly tuned. And the second that one animal does that, all the other animals around pick up on those signals and they all go into hunt mode too. Like the tiger, the lion is a very big, bulky, heavy animal. They can't have chases that last for hundreds of meters. It needs to be over and done with fairly quickly. So they'll get themselves into the perfect position. You can see them communicating with each other purely through body language, not sound. And when they think the moment is right, one will pounce and they will all go together. There's a reason that they're known as the king of the beasts. When these animals are hunting together, they really do have no equal. Feeding time here at Longleat is equally enthralling. The keepers drive a tractor with a big cage behind it, dropping chunks of meat down a chute, and the lions chase after it, organising themselves in hunt mode very much as they would do in the wild. So we've talked about the impressive teamwork of the lionesses, but hopefully you're getting to see our magnificent males close up too. Instantly recognisable by that impressive mane. But what purpose does it serve, do you think? Well, on the face of it, it appears to be something of a disadvantage. For one, it could easily get in the way and become tangled when running through vegetation. And secondly, having one is a bit like us wearing a thick, fluffy scarf on a boiling hot day. So if it's that much of a hindrance, why do they have one? Well, the reason for it, really, is that it makes the male lion look bigger. It makes him appear to be more impressive and more imposing to other male lions. And those are important qualities to have when it comes to settling territorial disputes. Should things escalate, that mane also helps to protect them against bites from other male lions. And speaking of bites, the teeth of an African lion are phenomenal. You may get to see inside their mouths when they yawn. If you do, check out those canine teeth. Each one is as long as my thumb, and the leading edge of it is so sharp that if you were to rub your finger down it, then it would surely cut you. It's those the lionesses use to kill their prey. It is one fearsome tool. At the back of the jaw, they have cheek teeth, carnassials, which operate very much like a pair of scissors, shearing and slicing meat into smaller, manageable chunks. They're also used to grind smaller bones, too. Combine all that with a very coarse tongue, which is used to lap meat off the hide, and you soon realise this animal is not only built for the kill, but also for munching down just about everything other than the horns and the hooves of the animal it preys on. Now, hopefully, you're seeing the sauntering shape of the cheetah, the fastest land mammal on the planet. Everything about their body is designed for speed. Compared to the lions we just saw, the difference in size and shape is incredible. Cheetahs weigh a fraction of the amount of a lion. Their head and skull are small and lightweight. Their limbs are much longer, their body more slender. They have a very big chest to accommodate large lungs and a big heart, which gives them great running endurance. Large nostrils drag in huge amounts of oxygen, and their spine is super flexible. It flexes and then retracts, almost like a bow of a bow and arrow, delivering a phenomenal amount of energy to those legs as they glide effortlessly over the surface of the ground. In essence, they're built like a long-distance sprinter. This is the Mo Farah of the animal world. They can get up to a top speed of around 70 miles an hour in about 3 or 4 strides, effectively going from 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds. And when they do, they'll spend about half of their time with no feet on the ground at all, completely airborne. All of this means that unlike a lion, which needs to get within meters of its prey before it can strike, a cheetah can launch an attack from, say, 20 or 30 meters away. And whereas a lion hunt will be over and done with in a matter of seconds, cheetahs can give chase for as much as 500 meters before they tire. That could make all the difference between success and failure. So hopefully you can see that face up close. But look really carefully. You can see a black teardrop-like smear beneath the eyes. It's been suggested that those might be a way of absorbing sunlight, in effect functioning like sunglasses, preventing the cheetah from being dazzled as it runs. Isn't nature clever? You've now arrived at your final Longleat Safari animal encounter, but in this case, last is most definitely not least. Say hello to our European grey wolves. It's such a treat to see these grey wolves patrolling our woods at Longleat. These animals were once common in the UK, but were declared extinct here in 1743. In the wild, they can still be found roaming through the icy climates of Eastern Europe in regions like Poland, the Balkans, Romania and Russia, as well as warmer places like Spain and Italy. Just like a pack in the wild, our group here at Longleat is based around a family, with an alpha male and female at the head of it who control the pack and call the shots. And just like the lions we met earlier, their hunting success is entirely down to extraordinary teamwork. Working together means they can combine their power, their strength, and bring down really sizable animals, something as large as a bison, 20 times the weight of a wolf. But first, they have to track it down. All a wolf's senses, touch, smell, hearing, and sight, are incredibly well developed and all come into play during a hunt. Their sense of smell is second to none. It is for all the members of the dog family, but for wolves it's particularly heightened. When you see them on the hunt, they'll drop their noses down to the ground, drawing in scents to their enlarged nasal cavities, processing all those smells, figuring out where the animal they're going to be hunting is moving to. They also have whiskers, which allow them to touch the world around them, and they have very good night vision, which allows them to be active at night as well as during the day. They'll follow trails for hours and hours, miles and miles, eventually locating a group of animals. The wolves then deliberately charge into them, forcing them to take flight. Now that might seem crazy, even uncoordinated, but a fleeing herd is exactly what the wolves want. It's only when their prey is on the run that the wolves can assess the individuals and determine which animal will take the least effort to hunt down. That could be a newborn, or it could be an old or injured animal. And once they've found it, they'll select it. They'll break it out from the main herd, and then working together, they'll bring it down. The other fascinating thing is that all our domestic dogs are actually descended from wolves. There's an enormous amount of similar behaviour that you see from the animals living in our houses to these living here at Wolfwood. At night, for example, a dog will walk around in a circle before it goes to bed. Essentially, what it's doing is exactly the same as a wolf does before it beds down. It's making sure that the ground's good and flat for it to lie down on. Each wolf has their very own signature howl, and they're not afraid to use it, especially when warning off outside wolves who threaten to enter their territory. Well, that's the end of your safari. I hope you've enjoyed meeting all the different animals. It's certainly been my pleasure talking to you about them.